Mike Owens here. Today I'm joined by Aspen Ladd, who next Friday night returns to action facing Kayla Harrison. Aspen, always great to sit down and chat. How are things for you today?
Going fantastic.
Perfect. First and foremost, give us a little bit of a walkthrough of how this whole fight came together. We obviously know that you're taking this on short notice. Just give us a little bit of an understanding of how this all came together.
Yeah, they called, I think, was it last Friday? Everything's been quick, but it was late Friday and we accepted. And then midweek the next week they accepted, and here we are.
I think it said on the press release that you were already kind of training for this bout as almost an unofficial alternate. Was that the case? Were you already kind of have an understanding that this could potentially happen?
So that was discussed, but only until the end of October. Then I was free to pursue other opportunities as long as they approved it, and I was done by the time they wanted me to get ready for the season. But so I was, but no longer at that time.
Because I think I saw in another interview that you were training for a boxing match. Is that correct?
We were looking into it, yeah.
How far did that go? Was there about agreed or any kind of date, or is it just that was kind of the next step?
That was the next step. But obviously this is a different opportunity than that.
No, 100%. It said on the press release that Bud was pulled out of the bout due to, I think, unfulfilling contractual obligations. Do you have any idea what that specifically is, or were you given any understanding of why specifically the change up?
No, I wasn't. So usually when you get called as a back end or a backup, basically, you assume everybody got injured. Like, you always assume it's an injury, so that's what we do. It's normal. So I didn't find out about that or see anything about that until several days later. I saw the article. So your guess is as good as mine.
100%. You mentioned there Friday, so basically a 2-week turnaround from the day of signing the bout to fight night. What is your preparation like? How do you and your team get ready for this on short notice?
The same as any. You have to stay in the gym, you have to stay ready, and we were getting ready to fight anyway. Not this particular fight, not exactly this date any longer. We were months ago, but really it's just the fine detailing. As long as you're in shape, make anything work on a few weeks notice.
Because I know I checked the record before we jumped on. I know that you had the short notice fight against Norma Dumont back in the UFC. I think that was on 10-11 days notice, if memory serves. So how did that experience prepare you for this similar experience coming in on similar time frame?
That was definitely a different experience because it was my first fight back in years. And it was, this is very different because I've been active and been healthy all year, and then I'm coming into this fight. It's not after a long layoff, and it's not after all the drama before that one.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let's talk about your opponent, Kayla Harrison, 2-time PFL champion. How do you break it down stylistically? Give me your kind of scouting report.
Yeah, no, Kayla is one of the most well-known specialists in the sport. She's very, very, very good at a particular aspect of MMA, as we all know. And there's not too many people that are that prevalent and that good at one part of it.
Would it be fair to say that in order to be successful, you've got to stay away from that specific part?
You need to be aware of it.
Yeah, true. Obviously, Kayla has had a much different 12 months in terms of composition compared to yourself. You've obviously been in the season. Kayla's obviously been out for the last year. What did you make of her loss to Larissapacheco?
It was a good fight. It wasn't like a devastating loss of any kind. It is rough that she has taken a year after that, so she's been sitting in that and coming back to it. But that's just my personal thoughts on it. I always prefer to be active, win or loss after. You don't want to have a long layoff, but everybody's a little different.
Are you a believer in kind of ring rust at all?
Yes. It doesn't matter what you do in the gym. If we go into other gyms, getting sparring in any way, shape, or form, nothing feels exactly like that moment. So you can make yourself as uncomfortable as possible in training. You can go elsewhere, you go to other gyms, you can go spar with people, and you still get like you still get your blood up. But there's nothing that's exactly the same as walking out there and fighting.
Yeah, no, 100%. I guess with that said, is part of your strategy to try and jump on Kayla, having had that year off the cage and trying to get the pace up quickly, or do you try and keep this as a longer form fight?
We have to wait and see.
I know you don't. I know we've had a couple of these interviews. I know you don't particularly like those questions. With
It's all
that
good.
being said, no, it's all good. Is this a fight that you've wanted since you signed with PFL?
Absolutely. It's the first one on your radar because she's been the face of it for a long time. Obviously, she lost the belt last year, but she's still, when you think of PFL in the women's division, you think of her. And when we signed that fight, the topic of it definitely came up, and we've discussed it several times since then. So that was always on the radar.
Yeah. How big of a part was when you signed with PFL of the potential of the Kayla Harrison fight? Because in terms of name value in this women's featherweight division, you're probably the two biggest names.
It was discussed, but it wasn't going to happen at that time. But we definitely did speak about it. And the way this one came together on short notice, everything's so it wasn't unexpected. It's just a little bit closer than we would have discussed or planned, or like if you had like 8 or 12 weeks or whatever. But we have talked about it previously, and when it came up, I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. No, of course. Just talk very quickly, touching on your 2023 season. Obviously one win and one defeat. How did the season compare to your expectations? Give me your overall reaction to how it kind of felt going through it.
The point system is something to get used to. I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that you're active all the time, and you don't have to sit up for 5 months at a time and wait for the next fight or hope for the next call, that kind of thing. So I liked how active they kept me, and definitely some things to take away from the season is paying utmost attention to the points, because you can have 2 good fights, 1 terrible one. You can have just anything, any combination, and then you have it's just something to get used to. And now we know, and going into next season, we'll work on that.
It's the key to maybe try and get points on the board as early as possible, because sometimes when somebody gets that first round finish, second round finish, it's very difficult for the others to try and catch them.
Yeah. Every fight you gotta fight it like it's your last, and the point system makes everything like, especially if there's no elbows in the PFL, it's harder to finish things, especially when you get to the ground. You got to be more, like, for me personally, more sub heavy all the time. So try to get the fight out of there sooner, and every single fight, emphasis on points.
The fighters who've, similar to yourself, who've transitioned over from the guys at the UFC or Bellator into PFL, have said that the PFL tournament is the hardest thing they've ever done. I can remember Rory McDonald and Anthony Pettis kind of saying those things. Would you agree with that, or would you say kind of the contendership rank where you're fighting the next person up to try and climb the ranks? Would you say that's more typical?
Honestly, I would not say it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's like, it's awesome. You're training anyway. Like, I train year round. I think most people do, but I could be wrong there. So you're always in shape, and we're not doing it just to stay in the gym and stay active. We're doing it to fight. Honestly, it takes stress off of you. Like, all right, I get to do this over and over again. I don't have to worry about exactly when the next one is. Is it physically hard? Sure. But then at the same time, you're trying to tempering your training so you don't get hurt as much in practice. You're not doing as many death rounds kind of thing. So I would not necessarily agree with that. I thought it was great.
Of course. I suppose looking towards 2024 is the intention to re-enroll and go back into the 2024 season.
Yes.
How does it feel having already done one? I mean, we've seen the likes of Brendan Loughnane, who's gone through a previous season and failed in the initial run, and then gone on to become the champion second time around. How much of a benefit is having already gone through the process once before?
I think having that experience up now is invaluable. Now I know. You recoup, go back and hit it again.
And there's a lot of rumours circling between PFL and the potential acquisition of Bellator. I'm sure you've seen those rumours, or certainly had an eye on them. Is there any particular fights in terms of the women's featherweight division over in Bellator that were potentially?
Oh, there's some huge ones. Yeah, no, they have several very good 45ers that I'm aware of, and obviously the champ is Cyborg, although she's busy with a boxing fight at the moment. So I'm very curious to see if they end up closing that deal, or how it's going to go, if everything gets absorbed, if they break it up, if it just keeps on existing as Bellator. I don't know.
Who do you think has the stronger roster at 145, Bellator or PFL?
PFL. just because they put so much effort into it the last couple of years. They've really been focused on building that division. Whereas Bellator is more established in it. They have been doing it for longer. But what they have is what they've had for the last however many years they've been doing it. They're not really focused on the building aspect. Whereas with PFL last couple, that has been their main focus.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. Talking about the final as well, who do you have in the final of on November 24th?
I think you guess who I have in the final, but let's see what your opinion is on it.
But there's pros and cons to both sides, I suppose, certainly.
That was a very politically correct way to put that. Yeah, no, I'm definitely taking Larissa.
No, of course, of course. You mentioned boxing there as well. Just a couple of more points before we finish. You mentioned boxing. Has there been conversations with the PFL about that also taking place in 2024, or will that be parked as you go through the 2024 season?
No, so that was something where, because I didn't want a long layoff, and it's like, you know what? They're pretty cool. They're pretty lenient's not the work. You still have to go, but you don't get shut down. Like with other promotions, for example, you bring it, hey, I'm gonna have this time off, and we know we're gonna have this time off. If you guys are okay with it, can I do this? It's never a no with them. It's a, well, let's see, let's discuss it. So that's something that I really like about PFL. But no, not for next year, because I'm going to be in the season. I'm going to be busy again.
Well, talking about your PFL compatriots, what was your reaction to Francis Ngannou going over to Riyadh and potentially shocking the world and getting certainly the moral victory, but in a lot of people's eyes, the deserved victory against Tyson Fury?
Oh, I was so happy for him. Not in the, like, he won in the eyes of the world anyway, but I still thought he won the fight just based on split decision. He did do more damage. So I think in the case of a split, it should have gone his way. But he won regardless, and he shut up so many people.
Do you anticipate he gets the rematch? Do you anticipate he stays in boxing and looks for other fights, or do you think the next move is MMA?
I think he's either going to immediately get that rematch after Fury goes and fights again, or they're going to he's going to have some kind of very large, maybe boxing crossover, but in the MMA ring. That's what I think. He's making generational money right now. I think he's going to try to stay in boxing, but there'll be something MMA, but it won't be like a normal MMA fight. But that's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah, of course. Do you think what he's kind of done in terms of carving his own path and kind of all the struggle and all the kind of backlash in terms of online and obviously from the UFC, you think what he's gone and been so successful, do you think it can change the sport going forward?
He already has. He's one of the first people that, even going into another promotion, he's trying to guarantee the wellness of his opponent in that they're going to make a certain amount. They're going to make a living off of this. So, and the fact that he didn't just roll over and concede, even with decent offers, he's already changing things. And having somebody like that in any form of advocacy or leadership role, especially because he's pivotal to the PFL right now. They've spoken, he's involved in so many aspects of it. I think that's only good for fighters. You have an actual fighter who cares about the humanity side of the people. So no, I think he's already changed the sport, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Well, turning the conversation back to yourself for one final question. November 24th, Kayla Harrison, Washington, DC. Aspen, what are you looking to show in your next fight?
There's a lot I'm looking to show in my next fight. But you're going to have to wait and see.
I suppose since I give a very politically correct answer earlier, that's a very politically correct answer back. So
very
best place for us to end. Aspen, thank you so much for the time. It's great to see you back in action, and I wish you the best of luck for next Friday night.
Thank you. Have a good one.